Hey CFC, welcome. I'm going to be reading from a section of scripture from 2 Kings 6, 8 to 23. And I want to challenge you as I'm reading through it to be looking for situations where people's sight is changed. That is, how people see. Let me read off right here from verse 8. Once when the king of Syria was warring against Israel, he took counsel with his servants, saying, "At such and such a place shall be my camp." But the man of God sent word to the king of Israel, "Beware that you do not pass this place, for the Syrians are going down there." And the king of Israel sent the place about which the man of God told him. Thus he used to warn him, so that he saved himself there more than once or twice. And the mind of the king of Syria was greatly troubled because of this thing. And he called his servants and said to them, "Will you not show me who of us is for the king of Israel?" And one of his servants said, "None, my lord, O king. But Elisha, the prophet, who is in Israel, tells the king of Israel the words that you speak in your bedroom." And he said, "Go and see where he is, that I might send and seize him." And he told him, "Behold, he is in Dothan." So he sent there horses and chariots and a great army, and they came there by night and surrounded the city. When the servant of the man of God rose early in the morning and went out, behold, an army with horses and chariots was all around the city. And the servant said, "Alas, my master, what shall we do?" He said, "Do not be afraid, for those who are with us are more than those who are with them." Then Elijah prayed and said, "O Lord, please open his eyes that he may see." So the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw, and behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire all around Elisha. And when the Syrians came down against him, Elisha prayed to the Lord and said, "Please strike this people with blindness." So he struck them with blindness in accordance with the prayer of Elisha. And Elisha said to them, "This is not the way, and this is not the city. Follow me, and I'll bring you to the man whom you seek." And he led them to Samaria. As soon as they entered Samaria, Elisha said, "O Lord, open the eyes of these men, that they may see." So the Lord opened their eyes, and they saw, and behold, they were in the midst of Samaria. As soon as the king of Israel saw them, he said to Elisha, "My father, shall I strike them down? Shall I strike them down?" He answered, "You shall not strike them down. Would you strike down those whom you have taken captive with your sword and with your bow? Set bread and water before them, that they may eat and drink and go to their master." So he prepared for them a great feast. And when they had eaten and drank, he sent them away, and they went to their master. And the Syrians did not come again on raids into the land of Israel. And we'll stop right there. Now, some of those changes of eyesight are probably pretty obvious, but I think some, maybe a little metaphorically or less so. And I want to challenge you with four of them. The first one's probably one of the most obvious. It's Elisha's servant. He wakes up, and the city that he and Elisha are in is surrounded by the enemy. And he is freaking out. Understandably, like we would be if we saw the enemy was couched against us. But Elisha, the man of faith, the man of God as he's called in this passage, says, "Open his eyes, God." And he shows him that the armies of the Lord, these flaming armies, are not only just around the city, there's this enemy of Elisha, but the greater army that's on fire is around all of them on all sides. He says, "Do not fear." And obviously, when you have those kind of odds in your favor, it is really easy to have confidence if you know how to look. Now, the Syrian army is made blind. Elisha prays to blind them. They're all blinded, and he leads them away until he leads them back to Samaria. And then they're given sight once again, and they're basically all enslaved at that point as prisoners of war, as it would have been, because they were blind and then given sight. These are kind of the two obvious ones. A little less obvious is the king of Israel. He sees his enemy turn into his hand, and he thinks, "Look what God's given me." And he's excited. You hear this eagerness. He goes to Elisha and calls him father and says, "Should I strike them down?" Quite the opposite. When the enemy is given into his hand, when he has opportunity to exact vengeance, Elisha says, "Prepare for them food and water." And the king's wise at this point, catches the tone and says, "I'll give them a great feast." And he blesses his enemy with a great feast, who, by the way, just been made blind and having been given sight again, are aware that something of divine proportion is up. And then they go home. So how the king of Israel sees changes in this season as well. And lastly, the king of Syria, the one who'd been against Israel, says in the last line that he is no longer going on raids against Israel. Because how he sees is really what is a small country. Israel today is about the size of New Jersey. It's a small little country where they've been raiding for supplies. He sees that there's a man of God there who is faithful, who has power, and we are not going back there again. And I have to wonder if perhaps the dual impact of both his army saying we were blind and then could see, and they showed us kindness, didn't impact the decision that we are no longer going on raids there. So if you're struggling on how things look nowadays or how things seem, perhaps the Lord just wants to change how you see. Ask him. Ask him to show you and see what he's doing in the midst of us. Some of us might have some visions of things that are far greater than simply what the naked eye can see, like Elisha did. And I encourage you to be asking to see as the Lord sees. God bless.